I rise to speak on the motion ahead of the House, which is to establish a select committee into the AUKUS agreement. This committee, proposed by the Leader of the Opposition and supported in previous debate by the Minister for Defence Industries, the member for Morphett, deserves this House's support. The bipartisan Shadow Minister for Defence Industries, the member for Morphett. This motion deserves the House's bipartisan support because this issue is too important for South Australia for petty partisan politics to play any part. And indeed, the success of the AUKUS agreement is tremendously important for Australia's national security. To successfully deliver Australia's part of the AUKUS agreement requires an immense effort from our state, and the opportunity presented by the AUKUS agreement to our state in terms of its economic activity and opportunities for our young people is potentially transformational. It cannot be understated the importance of this. It was important when South Australia won the opportunity to build the submarines, as indeed previous surface vessels in the past. For our economy, our defence industries, tremendously important, sir. And yet the importance and significance of those deals and those achievements is rendered small by comparison to the opportunities that the AUKUS agreement presents, just as the AUKUS agreement is tremendously important for Australia's national security. We can't mess this up, sir. This is something where, if any of us were to put political opportunism or ambition ahead of the national interest and the state interest in relation to this matter, it would be a grievous error, and history will judge such a government or such a member poorly. The opposition has tendered this suggestion. We raised it with the government ahead of doing so. We seek the government's support. We still hope to have the government's support. We hope to have it today because this work is actually starting now. It's critical that it starts now. But I raise a couple of issues that the Premier himself has raised as arguments as to why the Labor Party and the government should support this motion and should support it today. The Premier, on a number of occasions, has given quite appropriate speeches and answers to questions in relation to matters relating to AUKUS. He has talked, as I have just done so, about the significance of the arrangement, the importance for our national security, the importance for our future in South Australia, and the fact that this is not a matter that is going to be the responsibility of one government to deliver. This is going to be a matter that will be critically important for South Australia for decades to come. It will be a generational matter. It will surpass the lifetime of this government. Whether this government lasts for another 3 years, as I hope, for another 7 years, as they may hope, there will be a range of governments that will be responsible for overseeing South Australia's involvement in delivering the opportunities presented by the AUKUS agreement. A parliamentary committee to have oversight into these matters will give continuity, and it will give the opportunity for both sides of the parliament to make a contribution. It will give an opportunity for the government of the day to be supported by His Majesty's loyal opposition in having oversight of those matters, to be a testing ground for government plans, to indeed keep the public service supported through parliamentary oversight, and to ensure that both sides of politics are invested in the solutions and the solutions being presented by government are understood by both sides of politics, so that when there is a change of government, whenever that may be, and at whichever stage in the generation of the AUKUS project that may be, there will be people who have experience and understanding already of the issues. The committee has proposed to particularly consider how to ensure that the submarines are delivered on schedule, the education and training initiatives to build the future workforce, the role of South Australian industry, opportunities from emerging technologies, the progress of task forces and working groups, interstate and international partnerships. It is proposed that members from this House, 3 members from the Assembly, presumably 2 government and an opposition member, and indeed members from the Legislative Council as well, be appointed. This is not an opportunity for the government to lose control of the committee. We're quite open to the government having the numbers if that helps them out in any way. We're quite open to suggestions if they wish to add terms of reference or edit terms of reference. We've said this along the way. We look forward to the government, hopefully, putting the state's interests first and the national interests first and inviting that bipartisan cooperation that this committee presents. I speak from my own interests as a Shadow Minister for Education and Training. Yesterday, the Premier in question time was reflecting on the government's submission to the Surface Vessels Review and talking about the things that the South Australian government was putting in place in order to ensure that that future workforce was available that Australia would need, and we would need an ongoing shipbuilding, the ongoing provision of shipbuilding to maintain that workforce delivery. Those matters would only be improved by having a bipartisan parliamentary committee to support the government in their endeavours. Because the way the Premier described that submission, we would like to give it our absolute full support because we seek the same outcomes of continuous shipbuilding here in South Australia. But from the way the Premier described it, I am confident that a bipartisan parliamentary committee might have added value. Might have tested some of the rationale that was being put forward and ensure that when the state is putting its best foot forward to the Commonwealth, that we do so having had those suggestions tested and be polished up into their best possible form. I think that a bipartisan committee would enable the Parliament to progress with a shared understanding of priority areas so that when the government is considering making particular investments in a particular way, they can do so confident the opposition understands the priority and the needs for that because the opposition will have participated in the committee that is considering those matters. I think it has the opportunity to reduce the risk of South Australia appearing in any way non-bipartisan in any of the matters related to AUKUS because the requirement that we would have to test the government in question time on certain matters might be reduced because we would already understand the government's thinking or actions in a certain place because it will have had the opportunity to be tested by a committee where the politics will not be even seen to be present because of the nature and the way that we have suggested it be set up. The Leader of the Opposition has gone about this in the right way. We've approached the government, as I understand the direct approach to the Premier as well, identifying our eagerness to pursue this course of action. We would envisage that a committee such as this will exist not just for the term of this Parliament, but potentially for the term of AUKUS agreement, the AUKUS agreement, which is, as we expect, decades and generations into the future, but we think we should start with a select committee so that we can establish a framework for how this matter will operate. This is an alliance, an agreement to share technologies and a commitment for Australia to undertake work in our national defence, the shared national defence with the UK and the United States in the years to come that presents for South Australia a unique opportunity, sir, to make a contribution. The young people who are currently in primary school might well have significant leading roles in a whole range of industries, not just shipbuilding, of course, because the AUKUS agreement is more than building submarines, but those submarines are going to be amongst the most significant technological challenges that this country has ever delivered upon. And those opportunities must be met by a workforce that is capable, that has a broad range of skills and indeed the opportunity for high-paying jobs, for work with people's hands, for work with people's minds across a whole range of industries that AUKUS opens up is breathtaking. But those primary school students, secondary school students need to be given great advice, need to be incentivised and encouraged along the way, and that's also a duty of all of us as community leaders. I think that the government bringing the opposition into their thinking in the way that it's going about that business can only benefit the state to ensure that when we talk about those opportunities to young people through whatever mechanisms we do, through the media, through our personal engagements in the community, we do so with one voice. And it's only by doing that that we will realise those opportunities. This is something on which there can't be a partisan divide. There can't be politics played. The government should support this motion. We should support it today and on every opportunity that it's presented, if it's not supported today, I will continue to call on the government to support this motion, and we hope and we trust, and we will indeed congratulate them if and when they do agree with this motion. We urge them to do so in about 10 seconds. Thank you.
For Elizabeth.
Well, disappointingly, I move that the debate be adjourned. So.
Very well. It's been moved. Is it seconded? Put the question. Those of the opinion say aye. Against, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Division called. Ring the bells.